Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've seen you, about a month, and so this video is going to be a combination video today. We're going to be doing my June reading wrap-up, which is really short, but I'm also going to be talking to you about my trip to Canada, which I took in June, and the books that I picked up there, because I got a little stack of books from my trip to Canada I'm excited to tell you guys about. So first of all, let's talk about my June reading wrap-up, which literally I just have two, and that was Love Finds You in Annapolis and Positively Penelope. If you've been on my channel a while, you know that I have read these before. They're two of my favorites. And these are just the two books that I took on my trip to Canada. Because for me personally, having to do with my chronic illness, I only have not only so much physical energy to spare, I only have so much mental energy to spare. And the stress and activity of traveling, like I just don't have the emotional or mental energy to put towards books that I have not read before and that I do not, know what's going to happen, or if they might have sad parts in them. So usually when I travel, I take books that I've already read because I just don't have the emotional energy to contribute towards things that I don't know ahead of time. So, because most of my emotional and mental energy is going to the actual traveling and the vacation itself. So anyway, I took those two books with me on vacation and I read them while I was there. They're both 5 stars, which I've said before. They're two of my favorite books. And I didn't read any other books in June. I guess at the beginning of June, we were prepping for our vacation, and then when we got back from our vacation, we've gone into like full prep the house mode because my brother and his wife and 2 daughters are moving in. My brother is actually already here, and his wife and 2 daughters are coming in a couple weeks when she finishes up her job. So yeah, it's been hectic, and there are boxes everywhere. But yes, so June was very, very busy for me. I only read the 2 books that I've read before, so that's all I have to say on that. But I do want to talk to you guys about my trip to Canada. We spent 2 weeks in Canada. And so we spent like from June 9th to the 22nd or the 23rd. I forget which day that we flew back specifically, but it was like 2 full weeks. We spent a week in Banff, the national park in Canada, in Alberta. And then we flew across Canada to the east coast, where we spent a week on Prince Edward Island. And for book lovers, you know that Prince Edward Island is the home of Green Gables. And so we got to visit that. I was so excited. Green Gables is my all-time favorite book series. It's the book series that got me into reading when I was about 12 years old, so it has a very special place in my heart. And so we went to the Green Gables Heritage Place, which is where the actual house of Green Gables is. The author, Ellen Montgomery, her cousins lived in that house, and she based Green Gables off of it, and she says, like, in her journals and stuff, like, actually, in one of her journal entries, they had it posted there. It was her journal entry is like, yeah, I wasn't very good at disguising it because anyone who reads my books knows that it's my cousin's, the Campbell's house. And so she based Green Gables off of her cousin's house. It is now a museum you can walk through, and it was really cool. Like, they had Anne's bedroom from the books, upstairs, and like in her bedroom, they had it set up the way she would and the way it's described in the book. So actually in the corner of the room, they have a broken slate to represent the slate that she hit on Gilbert's head. And then if you go across the hall to like Marilla's room, on Marilla's bedstand, there's like a brooch to represent the brooch that she thought Anne had lost, which Anne didn't. And so yeah, they had all these nice little Easter eggs in the house, and that was super fun. And then the next day, we went to the actual Anne of Green Gables Museum, which is separate from the Heritage Place. There's actually like 4 or 5 places you can go in Prince Edward that have to do with Ellen Montgomery. Like you can visit Ellen Montgomery's house. You can visit like the school where she first taught, and then you can visit Green Gables Heritage Place, which is where Green Gables is, and then you can visit the Anne of Green Gables Museum, which is actually at her aunt and uncle's house, which she lived with her aunt and uncle for a while. Her mother died when she was like less than a year, I think, and so her dad kind of had her stay part of the time with her grandparents, and I think part of the time with her aunt and uncle, since he couldn't raise her by himself. And so the Anne of Green Gables Museum is at Ellen Montgomery's aunt and uncle's house, which she lived for part of the time. I think she was more of an adult when she lived there, because she wrote a lot there. But that one's really cool because, like, Anne of Green Gables, the heritage place, it's set up to, like, look at Green Gables, but it's kind of like a replica. I mean, the house still stands as the original, her cousin's house, but, you know, everything inside is like a replica, versus at the museum, which is her aunt and uncle's house, most of the furniture inside is actually from when she lived there. So, like, for example, in the parlor, there's a, like, glass bookcase that's actually the bookcase from when she was a child. And if you read Anne of Green Gables, you know when Anne is talking about her childhood when she lived, I forget whose house she was living in at the time, but she said that she had an imaginary friend who lived in the glass of the bookcase. Her name was Katie Maurice, and that she would go to the bookcase and she would see the reflection there, and that was her imaginary friend. Well, that was actually based on the bookcase in Ellen Montgomery's aunt and uncle's house, because when Ellen Montgomery was a child there, she had her own imaginary friend in the glass of the bookcase, and that's what inspired her to put that backstory for Anne. And so we saw that actual bookcase. We saw the actual wedding dress that inspired, I think, one of her stories, like in the Blue Castle, if I remember correctly. It wasn't one that I had read, but I think it's the Blue Castle. We saw a quilt in there that Ellen Montgomery made herself, and we saw the bed that she actually slept on, and things like that. So it was kind of two different experiences, because Green Gables itself is like, it's designed as a replica of what Green Gables would have looked like when Anne lived there, versus the Anne Museum actually has all this furniture from Ellen Montgomery herself and things like that. So it was really cool. But I did pick up quite a few books while I was there, because why not? So I want to talk to you guys about those. So the first thing is that I got my nieces and nephew stuff. So I got an early reader, Anne of Green Gables, for my brother's two daughters that are moving in. It's illustrated, really pretty. I think, like, I love these illustrations. I think they're really pretty. So that's for her. And his older daughter, Emma Grace, she's 4, and she actually has a early reader illustrated Pride and Prejudice that one of my sister-in-law's friends gave her at, like, her baby shower before Emma Grace was born. So I figured this could be her other classic novel. You know, she has her Pride and Prejudice, which she loves. She calls it the Sisters novel. She wants to read the Sisters. When she says she wants to read the Sisters, it means she wants to read Pride and Prejudice. So yeah, I thought this would go well for her. And then I got an adapted version of the book for my niece, my niece Ellie. She's my sister's daughter, and she's turning 7 this week on the 5th. And so this is, there's no pictures or anything. It's the full novel, but just the language is adapted to make it a little easier for younger readers to understand. So Ellie is turning 7 this week, and she's actually currently working. She loves to read, and she is currently working on chapter books, so this is really perfect for her. I was really excited to find it because I can't wait to share it with her. So that's really awesome. So those ones I got for my niece, and then I picked up a couple things for myself. So at the Anne of Green Gables, I picked up those two at Anne of Green Gables Heritage Place. And then when I went over to the Anne of Green Gables Museum, I picked up for myself, the original manuscript of Anne of Green Gables. So this is the book, but it has, like, copies of the handwriting. It has annotated notes of things that probably were removed from the editor. I don't know, I haven't looked through it yet. But yeah, so you can see the manuscript, and you can see notes on the side. I'll have to read through it to see if these were, like, things that were taken out by the editor, or if these were just notes that Ellen Montgomery made. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I'm really excited for that. And then I also picked up at the museum The Golden Road. They had copies of most of her novels, which I have not read anything but the Anne of Green Gables series. My mom has read more. My mom read, oh yeah, I got a bookmark too of Anne and Diana. It's cute. My mom has read the Emily of New Moon series, and I think she read the Blue Castle. I need to read them. She's always telling me I need to read them, but I haven't gotten around to yet. But anyway, this is The Golden Road. I have never actually heard of this one before. I think that, yeah, it has the main character of the Story Girl in here, and I had heard of the Story Girl, though I haven't read it yet, but I think that the main character of Story Girl is one of the characters in here, so I think it's like a companion novel. But yeah, this was one that I had not heard of before. I guess maybe it's not as common, so I picked that one up. It's really pretty. I can't wait to read it. Okay, so then, so those were at the two museums, and then we went to Charlottetown, which is the capital city, for a day, and I visited some independent bookshops there because why not visit bookshops when you're traveling? And of course, with Prince Edward Island being famous for Anne of Green Gables, they all had an Ellen Montgomery section. So, and I like to support independent bookstores, so I wanted to get a little something at both of the bookstores that I went to. So at the first bookstore, I picked up The Alpine Path, which is Ellen Montgomery's memoir of her career. So this is the story of my career, and I was actually excited to see this one here because they had excerpts of the Alpine Path up at the Green Gables Heritage Place, and I really enjoyed reading the excerpts that they had on the wall. And so I think I'll enjoy reading this one. It'll be one of my nonfiction books this year. Oh, they gave me a bookmark in this one. I did not buy that. They actually just gave it to me. Nice. So yes, I picked that up there. And then, so I have been looking for several years for a copy of The Blythes Are Quoted, and I didn't know this. I mean, I knew that it existed, and I knew that, it referenced Anne of Green Gables a lot because, I mean, it's The Blythes Are Quoted. But what I didn't know, what I learned at Green Gables Heritage Place, was that it was actually her very last publication, and the manuscript of The Blythes Are Quoted was delivered to her publisher on the day that she died. So it's quite significant in that way, especially considering, and another thing that I did not know that I learned on this trip was that she actually died of an overdose. She had a long-term illness. I think it might have been cancer, but I'm not for sure. And she had medication for that long-term illness, and she took too much of it and passed away. And they say that the family was pretty sure that she did it on purpose, but, they couldn't prove that. So that's really unfortunate. But The Blythes Are Quoted was delivered to her publisher the morning that she died. So it is officially her last book. And I have searched on the internet for it for a few years, and I've never found a copy. And so when I was at they didn't have it at the Heritage Place, so then when I was at the museum, I asked if they had it, and the lady running the shop at the museum was like, I've never even heard of it. So I was like, okay. And so that night I was on Amazon because my mom wanted me to get her a copy of The Story Girl on Amazon because she didn't want to buy it at the museum because she didn't have extra weight room in her suitcase. And I was quickly filling up my extra weight room in my suitcase with the books I had bought. So she was like, can you go on Amazon and get me a copy of The Story Girl? Because that's one that my mom hasn't read, and have it delivered to the house. So when I was on Amazon getting her The Story Girl, I was like, well, let me just look up The Blythes Are Quoted. And actually Amazon had it. And so I picked it up on Amazon, this Penguin Classic Edition, which as you can see, I've already started reading. But yeah, and I was so surprised because I was like, I can't believe Amazon has it because I have looked. And I know that I looked on thrift books and used websites. So maybe when I was looking, I just didn't think to look on Amazon because none of the used websites had it. Or maybe I did and Amazon didn't have it at that time because it was several years ago. So I don't know, but Amazon had it now. So technically I did not get this on my trip, but it's associated with my trip. So I got a copy of The Blythes Are Quoted. But then what was funny is when I went to the independent bookstore in Charlottetown, the one that I got the Alpine Path at, they had it. They actually had this edition of The Blythes Are Quoted right there in the store. And I was like, and that was the day after I had gotten it on Amazon. So I was like, oh, well, I could have gotten it here. But then I was like, oh, well, because this saves me room on my suitcase. So anyway, so then in the final bookstore, the second bookstore that I went to in Charlottetown, I had pretty much picked up a lot of Ellen Montgomery at that point. So in this one, I just got, I picked up You've Got a Friend, Charlie Brown, because I like the Peanuts, and also growing up, my best friend was obsessed with the Peanuts. So even though I like the Peanuts, I like it even more because it reminds me of my best friend, my childhood best friend who lives in Michigan now. And so, yeah, I picked up a copy of that. And I also picked up a copy of Robin Hood by This one is by Roger Lancel and Green, because there are different what word am I looking for? Different tellings of Robin Hood by different authors. So this is Green, who I've read before, and I like him. I like his telling of Robin Hood, and y'all know I love Robin Hood. I love Robin Hood retellings. If there's a Robin Hood-esque-ness to the story, I'm gonna read it. And so I wanted a copy of Robin Hood, so I picked that up at the second bookstore in Charlottetown. So yes, it was a very bookish trip for me. At least the second half of my trip was very bookish. So yeah, I did not take as many pictures as I should have. Like, after I left the museum, I was like, oh, I should have gotten a picture of the bookcase, and I should have gotten a picture of, like, her quilt and stuff, but I didn't think about it. I got a picture of the Lake of Shining Waters, but it's not very good because it's from the highway. And I got a picture of Green Gables itself, which I will show you guys. And I got a picture of, like, the stuff at Green Gables Heritage Place. I don't know why, I just wasn't thinking about taking out my camera at the museum. I really wish I had gotten a picture of the bookcase with the glass and the imaginary friend, but I just didn't think about it. I was so excited to see it, I just didn't think about getting my camera out and taking a picture. I'm not very good at taking pictures. I usually forget. But anyway, so yeah, that is the 2 books I read in June, plus my book haul from Canada. I hope you guys enjoy, and I will have more bookish content coming to you soon. Once we get everything settled with my brother moving in, I will have more time to plan out some content, but I am excited to get back to it. So I'll see you guys soon.